Welcome to No Refunds, the podcast where we watch bad movies so you don't have to. I am your host, Ben Reynolds, and this week we'll be talking about Sam Raimi's 2007 train wreck, Spider-Man 3.
Train wreck my ass.
That's putting it mildly.
Joining me for this discussion, we have the ever-zesty Andrew Etchen.
Ever-zesty? You're getting upgrades every week?
It sounds delicious.
I am a delicious man. Hello.
The dapper Tim Miller.
Hello.
As well
Hello.
as Patrick, the Law Morris.
Hey, everybody.
No Refunds is the second podcast from Cold North Productions. Please check out everything we have going on over at coldnorthpro.com. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review wherever you found our podcast. And now, Spider-Man 3. So we're going to start out with a little bit of plot. And our plot. Each week we're going to pull our plot from the Google synopsis that it spits out when you Google the movie.
Because there's no better way to find a plot.
Clearly it's not. Clearly it's not.
It's the definitive way.
So this week, what Google has for us is Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, and MJ, Kirsten Dunst, seem to be finally on the right track in their complicated relationship. But trouble looms for the superhero and his lover. Peter's Spider-Man suit turns black and takes control of him, not only giving Peter enhanced power, but also bringing out the dark side of his personality. Peter must overcome the suit's influence as two supervillains, Sandman and Venom, rise up to destroy him and all those he holds dear.
Three's a party.
So, essentially what you're telling me is this is the same movie as Jackie Chan's The Tuxedo.
More or less.
In which a suit takes control of Jackie Chan. Also,
and
Jennifer Love Huge Tits.
Even channier.
And it's also, it doesn't even mention Harry. Like, what?
Also,
yeah.
That's true.
There
are three villains in this movie.
Or the biggest obstacle between MJ and Peter's relationship, which is Gwen Stacy.
Guys, I really appreciate all this talk about Spider-Man 3, but I really want to talk about The Tuxedo.
But
we're not on the
that sometime down the road. Sometime down the road. Another podcast.
This is a podcast for bad movies. That's a great movie.
Yeah. So
that is a flawless film.
As was this.
By flawless, you mean incredibly flawed, then yes, I agree.
Oh,
exactly.
Isn't that how the word is used?
I thought they were synonymous. So, with each film we are going to revisit 6 questions to lead our discussion. So our first question is, how bad was it? Patrick, let's start with you.
Real bad. I haven't seen this movie in 10 years, 11 years.
It's even worse now somehow.
It is. And okay, I was talking to Gabe about what do I think are the best comic book movies / superhero movies ever the other day. And I kind of brought I guess I would say top 5 for me are there's kind of a 3-way tie for 3, 4, and 5, and that's V for Vendetta, Sin City, and Batman Begins. And then above that is Spider-Man 2 is number 2. Spider-Man 2 is my second favorite, and then X-Men 2, of course. But Spider-Man 2 is to this day my second favorite superhero movie of all time. I was so hyped for Spider-Man 3, and it's worse. It's worse than disappointing a 17-year-old after Spider-Man 2. That's how bad this movie is.
Well, it in comparison, especially with all of both of the ones that came before it, it was really one of those movies where you kind of watch it and you're like, why'd they even make this? They should have just stopped. They should have.
Oh yeah, I know it's really terrible. As I will admit that, as I guess I would have been been 18 years old when this movie came out, and no, I would have only been 17. I think, yeah, 17. I think you were only 16, enough. Pat.
Oh yeah, because it was like May of 2007.
Yeah, it was May 2007, May 5th or 4th or something like that. 2007.
I was 16 years old, and I saw it. A 16-year-old boy saw Spider-Man 3 and said, "That movie sucks."
I saw it on opening night.
It's
and
worse.
It was one of the first movies that I saw.
The CGI
like, at midnight,
is just hilarious,
and I think that's why I kind of like partially was like, "Oh, that's so awesome."
Okay,
I hadn't really
as
seen
long as
movies at midnight.
As long as we're here, I got to tell the story of Ben. So we were so psyched for Spider-Man. Ben and I were both big Spider-Man fans. We went to high school together, and Ben got to go see Spider-Man 3 at midnight. I did not. We were in U.S. history class together, and we went to class, and I got there before he did, and he came in, and I said to him, "How was it?" And with the utmost confidence, I think one of the most confident statements I've ever heard anyone make. He says, and I quote, "Easily the best of the three."
Yeah, pretty absurd. Pretty absurd.
It was definitely a ridiculous statement. Spider-Man 3, easily the best of the three.
Hey,
yeah. You have a lot to atone for.
We all grow.
Two was clearly far better. Two was clearly far better. So Tim, how bad was it for you?
Like Patrick, I haven't watched this movie in a lot of years, and I haven't watched any of them in quite a while, so I decided to marathon all three of them today.
Nice.
And
ew.
It was god awful.
It was good, terrible.
Yeah, it plateaued like at the climax of the second one, and then it was just a deep dive down into the depths of hell.
So now let's talk about really what made it so bad.
Well, and how bad was it, Andrew?
Well, Andrew kind of tailed in.
Yeah, I mean
the
only addition I would have for that is just it's hilarious watching those movies with the level of like CGI, how far that sort of stuff has come since those movies.
Oh, I'm going to spoil a little bit
astounding.
I'll spoil a little bit of half-assed internet research right now and let you guys know that at the time this was the most expensive movie ever made.
Yep, it was. And Tobey Maguire actually almost didn't come back for this movie
because he had fucked his back up so much.
Where right? Sandman's like becoming Sandman, and he like reaches for the ring, and his like hand turns to sand, and like
the Sandman plotline is so bad. All right, so here we are at the we're at the second question, guys.
We've arrived.
The second question is what made it so bad. And I think that the first thing that you have to mention with this movie is the like 7 different plot lines that you're supposed to be following.
Okay, I actually stopped. I paused the movie. Where is this? 11 minutes and 23 seconds into the movie. You have seen the establishment of 3 villains, 2 love interests, and like we're 11 and a half minutes into the movie.
Yeah, and you're like, isn't this the third movie? Like, isn't this when we're supposed to be wrapping this stuff up?
This is supposed to be the end of the arc, and this is we're 11 and a half minutes into the movie, and we have 3 villains and 2 love interests. They did not fuck around with time. Like, is there?
They didn't have time to fuck around with time.
That's true.
Too much going on.
Is there a director's cut of this movie? Do you know?
They were hoping somebody would be like, dude.
So. I didn't find anything about a director's cut while I was doing my half-assed internet research. But I can't. I don't think Sam Raimi is very proud of this.
Sam Raimi does not like this movie at all.
No.
The director's cut is just watching Spider-Man 1 and 2 and then calling it quits.
Yeah, I think that's what Sam Raimi would prefer.
End title card. The third never happened.
Yeah, it's just a scene of him snapping the third DVD in half, and he's like, it's over.
Yeah, well, I mean, I also was not, like, some of the casting was, like, I don't think Topher Grace was a great Eddie Brock.
I don't think Topher Grace was even a passable Eddie Brock.
Take it seriously. I just kept seeing Eric Foreman. I couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. There's a scene towards the end where they've got like they're all like he's like on a car and it's all suspended in the air with webs, and I forgot what Tobey Maguire is saying to him, and he's like, "Come on, man, like don't do like bad stuff or whatever." And then then Eric Foreman looks at him with his fake pointy teeth and he's like, "I like being
Oh, the
bad."
fake pointy teeth were so cheesy.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
I just see Eric Foreman and it makes me laugh.
What are you doing? What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, the fake pointy teeth. I literally like made like a note about how bad the fake pointy teeth were. Oh man,
This super sharp, weird, like out of place pointy teeth. You're like, dude, you'd bite your tongue off in like a second.
And I love
something you buy at the dollar store.
Okay, one of the things I loved about Topher Grace as Eddie Brock and the origins of Venom is he goes to church and he confesses and he asks for forgiveness and then immediately asks God, "I want you to kill Peter Parker."
He's like, "Hey man, I know I haven't talked to you in a long time.
I fucked up. I'm sorry.
We haven't been in touch much, but I need you to kill a guy for me."
Also, like when fucking Peter and Harry have the fight, and like the grenade ends up getting thrown at fucking Harry. How did Harry not die? He just has a scar on his face. It's like instantaneously a scar. Also,
yeah, I thought that too. His face is like that's like years of deformity. That it takes like it should have been like Two-Face in Dark Knight.
It wasn't a
less
fresh
than a
wound.
day.
No.
He's just got a scar.
And so I actually that actually made me think how much time does this movie occur over? Because was there time between and did like Sandman and Venom just sort of lay low for a while?
Yeah, well, and the whole like then I mean Sandman was just such it was terrible. Like that like I was thinking about it and like in the newer Marvel movies I feel like they would have like the Sandman's daughter being like just vaguely sick was weird. Like in the newer Marvel movies they would have explained that by she was like exposed to some alien technology or some shit like that and like got cancer from that.
Yeah.
Like not and that so he would have hated the Avengers.
It's
or
just like quit
that.
phoning it
But
in.
it's just like, oh yeah, your daughter has cancer, so you're gonna go after Spider-Man.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
I think the Sandman is just very much, very obviously a product of the, I would say, of the like desperation and like the beautiful villain.
That was the original villain that was planned for this movie.
I know, but then they had to shoehorn in a bunch of stuff, and so I think there was a lot of storytelling with Sandman that got left on the cutting floor, and I think Sandman could have been great, but like and it's like the skeleton is there, and we know that like Sam Raimi can get a story rolling about a really tragic villain, because look at Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 was a really tragic villain, and that's kind of what Sandman was what they were going for with Sandman. But then there's the cartoonish, over the top, terrible Venom, and the very weirdly shoehorned Hobgoblin, and a fourth villain in this movie that nobody mentions, the Lizard. What's up with that? They've been laying the groundwork for the Lizard, and Dr. Connors, over 3 movies.
Kurt Connors. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He's been in 3 movies, and they haven't pulled the trigger on the Lizard.
Yeah, well, it's pretty. I mean, well, so I just want to read a couple of notes that I have here. One note that I have is Toby equals creepy.
We were at. I actually. It's funny you notated that. I notated. We're at the peak Tobey Maguire narration.
Then the next note I have is no cell phone in 2007. When Peter uses a payphone to leave a message on MJ's message machine. What the fuck? How does he not have a fucking... He has to go out in the fucking hallway and use a payphone? How does he not have a fucking cell phone?
I mean, look at his apartment. Also, I wrote, still in college? How long has Peter been in college? does he have a doctorate by now?
Well, and he's also like, he's such a dick. Like, he just like kisses Gwen and then immediately after that proposes.
And
like, she wasn't just watching.
Yeah, that's true. She's like, how did you think that would be okay? And I'm like, you know what, Kirsten Dunst? I rarely agree with you.
I rarely see
like it's like this and Jumanji, and I'm like, yep, Kirsten Dunst, you got a point. But don't get me started on Elizabethtown.
Another note that I have here is Toby in 3 is why he has done very little acting since.
Except what about Brothers with Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, I guess I actually saw that when I was trying to pick a movie for the next movie, but it's not a bad movie. It's not bad enough to be.
Not bad enough for. Also, James Cromwell in this movie. That's badass.
Yeah, indeed, definitely.
I love James Cromwell.
This is a great fucking line here. So I said that the breakup scene was straight weird or strange, and then I said, did he straight up kill Harry? Because that's with the grenade. Like, I thought for a second I forgot. I was like, damn, is Harry just dead?
You're like,
oh my god,
shit. Like,
this movie just got really dark.
And then my next note is, the dancing in the street made me rethink if the movie was actually bad. And then the next note is, so much dancing in the second act.
Just amplify
there
it
was a lot of dancing. There was a lot of bad dialogue. I actually, one of the bad lines that I wrote down was when he first wears the Venom suit and he goes to fight Sandman in the subway. He shouts, "I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye." It's just like, all right, is that talking shit?
Yeah, you're like weird flex, but okay.
Well,
yeah, like if I ever fight someone, to let them know that secretly I'm Spider-Man, they're in some deep shit, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye, and they'll be like, oh fuck, I've seen Spider-Man 3.
Well, and then after the dancing scene in the jazz bar, Peter assaults a bunch of bouncers and MJ, and nobody calls the cops.
Nobody calls the cops.
And
shit up some bouncers.
And literally assaults MJ too.
I think it actually would have, going back to the Topher Grace thing just real quick, I think it would have been cool if they had cast Jake Gyllenhaal.
But they didn't. Instead, this is the timeline we are stuck with.
So then my last note is, if Eddie died, then Harry should have died for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
If Eddie died because of that pumpkin bomb,
yeah,
Harry definitely should have been dead.
Harry definitely should have died.
Yeah.
They just kill him off too. That's another thing that, just going back to what makes the movie bad, it's like Venom shows up and he's like one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains, and then within the same hour he's dead and gone, and you're like, no, I'm sorry, but that's what sort of bullshit, boring ass fucking Spider-Man universe is this?
Dumb. Also,
Spider-Man secretly murders all of his enemies, so that he never has to deal with them a second time.
Speaking of Harry dying, when did Harry get superpowers? Because I was watching, when he goes to see him and Harry suddenly has superpowers. That's pretty weird. I thought about that too.
There is actually a point in the early beginnings of the movies where you see him step out of the gas chamber and the gas had just been put on him. It's early on in the movie. Yeah, there's a small little scene there that hints at it.
So that was poorly done because I had no idea, and
he forgot about it
when he fell. Like during the fight with like the aerial fight when Peter drops the ring a bunch, and then he like just gets clotheslined and just smacks the fuck out of his head on that pipe. I was like, oh, Harry should be dead right now. Like,
yeah, you'd be knocked
holy shit, Harry should be so dead right now. But then he just wakes up in the hospital and does that big ass James Franco smile where he
in reality they would have been like, Peter, do you know your name? And he would have been like, 7.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a miracle you're talking. Ben's
it's
doing
a miracle you can talk. Like,
Ben's doing a great James Franco smile, just showing too much of your gums. Like, don't show us your gums when you smile, James Franco. Jesus.
So, all right. So our next question is, which character was the worst?
Definitely Eric Foreman.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty
Sandman though.
No, maybe
Sandman
so.
Just like
have a character.
He was
a cinder block of a human being.
He was literally just dirt. He was dirt of a character.
He was literally dirt.
And then the retconning the backstory to make him like
so
actually
dumb.
That was so terrible. Yeah.
So dumb. And so you're just making my point for the fact that he's the worst character, because not only did they retcon and his backstory is stupid, not only is the character literally just dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could make the character of Venom is better because while Topher Grace was a terrible choice, but the character is still supposed to kind of be like the opposite of Peter.
He's supposed to be crazy.
Yeah, and so like that. Yeah, that like. I see some logic there.
But then on top of that, Thomas Haden Church, you get an actor like Thomas Haden Church, and you cast him as a shitty ass Sandman. Like Thomas Haden Church, he's not the best actor in this movie, but he's close.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like James Cromwell. He's not J.K. Simmons. But I would say Thomas Haden Church is third.
Yeah,
his character literally just gets to be like a cinder block of a man.
Yeah, he's cinder block of a man. That's exactly right, Andrew.
He's like, because he's a very like his like facial structure, like he's a very blocky looking man, and the fact that his lines in the movie are so like broad and simple, you're just like, yeah, you're just like a brick of a human, like a brick of a character.
How stupid is his costume too? Like, I get it going for like,
yeah.
And not only that, but like he like opens up the drawer at the house he hasn't lived in for years, and the shirt's right on top, and he like pulls it out and shows it, like holds it up and looks at it, and he's like,
"This is the moment."
Yeah.
Remember, nerds, this is what I wear in the comics. Like,
Exactly. And that shirt, I think, is one of the biggest problems I have with the character, because it's like it was too faithful to the comics.
Yeah.
It was like a muscly Steve from Blue's Clues, and it was very
a muscly Steve.
This brings me back to another note that I had, which is, why do all gigantic like superheroes / villains all sound like the same in movies? Like when he becomes the giant Sandman and he like yells stuff, like he sounds the exact same as like Hulk sounds, and like
yeah, I guess so.
Boom.
We don't really know what anything that big that could actually talk would sound like. I guess it's sort of like dinosaur noises, where it's like we don't actually know what dinosaurs sounded like, and so some guy just made it up one day.
It's true.
And we all just ran with it.
We were just like, oh yeah, that's like pretty cool.
Like
really, they're all
Park,
basically
like
giant
of
birds,
like a lion,
probably.
an elephant and a dog and
somehow even worse.
And some other shit. I can't remember what at all. All right, so I think we've kind of reached a consensus that Sandman was the worst character.
Thank you.
So our next question is, what character was the best / most compelling?
Sandman?
No,
you're
not going to get a twofer.
Yeah, you can't.
Sandman, I'm going to make the argument here. He was all over the board, and he just fell into that experiment, so that's pretty interesting. Also, there's a lot of depth with his love for his daughter.
No, but they didn't make that story compelling, so that the character isn't compelling. Like, I would say that I feel like Harry, like the Harry storyline is like actually probably the closest to being like an actual compelling storyline.
I'm pretty sure the best character was MJ's abusive father, because he was never shown in the movie.
He was shown in Spider-Man 1, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And then he got the fuck out of there, and therefore he's the best of the whole series.
No way. I kind of think it was Harry, because like that the Harry plot like storyline was the most complete. Like him like kind of starting to flirt with MJ and stuff, like when he came back, and
did he? Okay, I do have a counterpoint to you, but I am going to add on top of the Harry thing. Did he mastermind like Peter breaking up with MJ? Did he put that in, or MJ breaking up with Peter? Did he
absolutely,
because
I think.
After that scene, she walks by and like looks at him like he like fucking blackmailed her or something.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh yeah. He like gives her that look like
he's like, yeah, baby, you did exactly what you told.
And she like looks at him like she hates him. And I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. There wasn't a scene about this, or maybe I fell asleep again.
I time travel again. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. But counterpoint to what you said, Ben, we know that Sandman enjoys hanging out in subway tunnels and likes to rob armored vehicles.
Don't we all?
It's not very compelling for a character.
I think it's very compelling for a character.
But his daughter has cancer.
Yeah.
Probably because of all those train tracks he hangs out around.
It could be the contagion.
So he had to steal the money to pay who back again?
I don't know. They don't explain it, but we know that he likes to do it.
Oh, no, it was the money. He needed to get the money to pay for the cancer treatment, right?
Yep.
Oh, see, there's a story arc right there. It's a tragic villain.
Yeah, and then she sees him or something and is like, Daddy, you're disgusting and evil.
That was one of my favorite scenes when she's like,
get out.
He's like fighting with his ex-wife and the daughter's just there and he like runs up. I just thought that was so funny. I was like, this is a really bad movie.
So then, all right. Let's Andrew, your vote or your introduction for best character does not get because he wasn't actually in this movie.
Oh, I see. All right, how about
right now our choices?
How about one of the birds who's flying by and like the typical pan down intro?
So right now our vote choices are Harry and Sandman. Unless Tim or Andrew wants to introduce a real character.
Nah, you know what? Kirsten Dunst, we'll throw her hat in the ring. I don't have any reasons though.
I don't have any reasons though. It's
kind of
she's like, she tried.
She tried real hard in that play.
I'm going to go with Stan Lee. That one line he delivered, that's all I needed from that movie. That's the only thing I needed from that movie.
There you go.
I
second Stan Lee. That's a good vote right there.
That was not a bad cameo at all.
Hold on. You're telling me that Stan Lee had a better arc than Sandman?
Yes.
No.
Sandman's arc was terrible.
It was better than Stan Lee's.
We just agreed that Sandman was the worst character. We can't say that he's the best.
The best.
No,
it's a real.
All right, so it's like because this is not. We don't need to be unanimous, and we have the majority voting for Stan Lee. It sounds like Stan Lee was our best.
We're going with the one-line cameo of Stan Lee.
All right,
I'm still. I will hold strong as a Sandman supporter.
So our next question
striped green shirts
is. Was this movie so bad it was good?
No.
Yeah. Whereas Mortal Kombat, I think Mortal Kombat was probably so bad it was good. I don't think that this movie was.
Yeah, okay. It's not. It doesn't have the cult classic kind of hatred. Like
seeing this movie get memed so much online, I was like. This was the second time I had ever watched it, and seeing it get memed so much online, I was like ready to sit down and watch it and enjoy it in the same way I enjoy the Star Wars prequels. I was ready to like be like, yeah, there's something here that I like. There's a lot here that's laughable. Overall, I'm really satisfied with this experience. Outside of Sandman, I was extremely dissatisfied with this experience.
Fuck.
Oh dear.
You just killed Ben.
Ben dropped his computer.
No, we're good. We're good.
No, this was a bad movie. This was not so bad it was good. This was just so bad it was just bad.
There's no saving it that
bad.
way.
Yeah, you can't.
-1 on a scale of 1 to 10.
It's like Fallout 76 bad.
Yeah, you can't save that. No saving that.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole, please.
All right.
Yeah.
So then our last question each week is going to be: would it have been better as a Netflix/HBO series?
Yes.
Definitely.
Obviously.
Probably.
Like, yeah, because like then
Netflix wouldn't have fucked that up.
Exactly, because like they would have maxed out with 2 storylines per episode at most, and so then you just like you're getting fucking like that whole movie could have been like a 10-episode fucking series. Like,
that would have been awesome. We would have gotten the exploration of Sandman's daughter's cancer.
We would have gotten the Toby that we deserved.
As an audience deserved.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, we would have gotten a lot of James Franco smiling too, which
that smile.
I mean, and if it was HBO, we get to see him naked, so that's even better.
Oh,
That's even better.
James Franco or Kirsten Dunst? Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Ooh, let's get a lineup of the whole team. I want to see some Willem Dafoe up in there too.
Naked.
I just want a wall calendar now of this.
Ben, you should get closer to your microphone.
That Snaggletooth was wicked.
Wait, who's Snaggletooth? What?
Fucking Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, okay.
She's got the
that's true.
Kirsten's got a snaggletooth.
I had actually never heard the term snaggletooth until I met Sean Sibbets.
And then you're like,
and
I know what a snaggletooth is.
That dude has got like the king of snaggleteeth. So to me, you'd like if you're going to use the term snaggletooth, it's got to be like Sean Sibbets level or worse. So
poor guy.
Never met like a lot of people with snaggleteeth.
Oof. I've never met Kirsten Dunst, but
that's true. Didn't he fall? Sean Sibbets like tripped one time and his snaggletooth went through his lip.
Oh man!
Ow!
I don't think it went all the way through, but I think it went into his lip.
Yeah.
Ow, fucking A. That is brutal.
Yeah. It's just it would have been so much better if you because like it didn't have enough time. They didn't have enough time to fit all 7 of those storylines in.
It was like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, it was
like
really long.
Minutes, but yeah.
2 hours and 15 minutes? No way.
Yeah.
It felt way longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, it felt really long.
All right,
it felt way long.
So I'm going to borrow our next category. I'm borrowing from a podcast that I personally really like called the Rewatchables on the Ringer Podcast Network. It's a great podcast, and so it's called Half-Assed Internet Research. So yeah, essentially I'm gonna just do some half-assed internet research about the movie each time, and yeah, I'll read it to you guys here and let you guys give me some commentary on it.
Give you some feedback. By the way, half-assed internet research. Spider-Man 3, 2 hours and 36 minutes.
All right,
The Amazing Spider-Man, 2 hours and 33 minutes. Which would I rather watch? Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, no, I completely disagree on that. I'd rather watch The Amazing Spider-Man.
When was the last time you watched Amazing Spider-Man? Because it's real bad. Sorry, Ben. Please continue.
All right. So, development of Spider-Man 3 began immediately after the release of Spider-Man 2 for a 2007 release. During pre-production, Raimi originally wanted another villain to be included along with the Sandman. But at the request of producer Avi Arad, he added Venom, and the producers also requested the addition of Gwen Stacy. Raimi wanted another villain, and Ben Kingsley was involved in negotiations to play the Vulture, but they cut the character because Arad convinced Raimi to include Venom, a character whose perceived lack of humanity had initially been criticized by Raimi. Venom's alter. Well, we already talked about how like Eddie Brock was already supposed to be in the script, so that's why it made some sense. And then,
I'm going to jump in here. Yeah. So Ben Kingsley was in talks to play the Vulture in Spider-Man 3. They actually signed John Malkovich to play the Vulture in Spider-Man 4, and so. I would be psyched to see Raimi make Spider-Man 4. Like, kill the MCU. We don't need that shit. Bring the Raimi Spider-Man verse back, and let Sam Raimi make Spider-Man 4, and cast John Malkovich. Let him make a Vulture Spider-Man movie, because he clearly wanted to do that, and I think that would be sweet.
Well, I mean, it could be. Well, but we're never going to see that. So
no.
But so
I thought it was interesting.
Avi Arad apparently felt that the series had relied too much on Raimi's personal favorite Spider-Man villains and not characters that modern fans were actually interested in. And so Raimi included Venom to please producers, and he said he began to appreciate the character himself.
So what you're telling me is that Avi Arad ruined Spider-Man.
It kind of sounds like he definitely... I mean,
sounds like that motherfucker had a hand in it.
I don't think that you like. Both Sam and his brother definitely had a big hand in ruining the movie as well. But I think Alvin Sargent. I feel really bad for Alvin Sargent, because Alvin Sargent wrote a very great Spider-Man 2, and then they were like, "Yep, you're coming back for 3," and then he's like, "All right," and then he's like, "They're like, yeah, you're gonna work with Sam and his brother," and he's like, "Okay." And so then that's the Harry Osborn was brought back because Raimi wanted to conclude his storyline,
which they did actually. Seeing him die on the rooftop as the sun rises, I was like, there's some finality to one of the character arcs that's been going for 3 movies, which that's what the 3rd movie is for, is to give us some finality.
Okay, but then why the fuck do you have 2 other fucking villains?
Because they were gonna make Spider-Man 4.
But you killed all of them.
All right, yeah.
Technically, the Sandman's not dead.
That's
he just
true.
Floated away in a cloud of sand.
Flew away as sand. Long live Sandman.
He just chose not to be whole.
Yeah.
Sandman 2020. He's off living as a beach somewhere.
So
living as a beach.
So
it's in the Bahamas.
So apparently, when Raimi and Arad were making all of these additions, Alvin Sargent, who was the head screenwriter, he found his script so complex that he considered splitting it into 2 films, but he abandoned that idea because he couldn't create a successful intermediate climax, which I also could see how that would have been a problem, because
didn't climax.
None of the climaxes in the movie were very were interesting enough for 1 movie, let alone making it into 2 fucking movies.
Yeah.
Also,
there's no way they could have.
Also, name a series that's done a good 2-parter with an intermediate climax.
We'll see what Avengers can do. That's going to be the first one that really has
Avengers did it. You're right. If the second part of Infinity War is good, but think about the 2 big ones that come to mind are Matrix and Harry Potter. And
Matrix was terrible, and Harry Potter was
bad. Harry Potter was bad. It just ends with the villain, and then to be continued.
Yeah, it's not great. So then my last piece of half-assed internet research is, apparently originally Danny Elfman was not going to return for the 3rd installment because he had difficulties with Sam Raimi. He said that he had a miserable experience with him, working with him on Spider-Man 2, and could not comfortably adapt his music. But apparently he ultimately decided to come and do it, which was one redeeming factor that the movie does have, at least that Danny Elfman did the music.
Thank God, because that scene where he just wakes up and he's in the black suit and he's on the side of the building and the muted trumpets go do 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 do. It's worth the whole movie.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I know. Danny Elfman definitely that was one of the few redeeming characteristics that the movie had, was the Danny Elfman score.
It could be because I watched the movie recently, but I saw a meme on the Raimi memes subreddit today, or a couple days ago, and it's it was from that scene, and it just said at the bottom, it said black suit theme intensifies, and I just thought I just heard the song in my head, and I was like,
oh man, yeah,
you gotta put that song at the beginning of this episode.
If I can find that song, I absolutely will. We got to figure out what it's called.
I'll show you how to get it, I'll even get it and I'll email it to you.
All right, perfect. All right, well, that wraps up our discussion of Spider-Man 3.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Fortunately, we don't only watch bad movies and television. So let's talk about some of the stuff that we have genuinely enjoyed watching lately. Andrew, tell me something good you've been watching.
I've been going all around on Hulu lately, and I rediscovered Futurama, which I love. I love watching Futurama, so I've been rewatching some Futurama. Perfect. But I started watching Broad City, and that's at the behest of some of my coworkers. Yeah, and that show's really funny.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely. Tim, how about yourself?
Well, I mean, besides it being football season,
True.
Football.
I'm trying to think. What have I watched lately? Oh, Now You See Me 1 and 2.
Terrible movies.
I actually really enjoyed those movies.
Worth watching for no refunds. Both terrible.
I haven't seen either of them.
They're not great, but they're entertaining.
It was enjoyable.
Jesse Eisenberg at his best.
I think his best is Social Network, definitely. But
I'm making a joke.
Okay, good.
Obviously, his best is Lex Luthor.
that may eventually be that's definitely a candidate for this.
That deserves.
Why are you saying that name?
Okay.
Patrick, what have you been watching?
I'm sorry to steer us back, but there's one more thing I got to mention about Spider-Man 3.
God damn it.
There is an actor in Spider-Man 3. His name is Michael Papajohn. And Michael Papajohn played the carjacker.
Oh, I saw that.
Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3.
But he is not Papa John.
He is not Papa John. But
Papa John went to Kentucky.
He is also famous for movies such as The Hot Chick with Rob Schneider, Terminator 3 Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, both Jurassic World movies, and The Dark Knight Rises. But most importantly, he was also in The Amazing Spider-Man.
I would change my last name if I were him, just so that I wouldn't be associated with a racist.
I would change it to Pizza Hut to show the real Papa John who's boss. But now he's also in The Amazing Spider-Man. If this dude shows up in the MCU, any of those movies, can we definitively say that there are 3 Spider-Men and they all exist within the MCU?
Maybe.
Is he?
Well, I mean, we already know that there's multiple Spider-Men because Enter the Spider-Verse.
There we go.
Yep.
Is Michael Pizza Hut the most iconic Spider-Man actor? I would say yes, behind Thomas Haden Church.
Okay, but now tell us, what have you been watching this week?
Okay, I'm
just lately.
I'm wrapping up Star Trek: The Next Generation again.
Nice.
And holy shit, I love that show. It gets so good. And like, especially at the end, like the 7th season, it got really, really good. And I don't know why they ended it, but there's a sequel series coming out about Jean-Luc Picard, and I'm really excited about it. Also, if you're on Twitter, there's a novelty account called TNG Season 8, which is just some guy tweeting really funny plot lines for The Next Generation Season 8. And there's like, if you're a Star Trek fan at all, there are really funny jokes. And one of them is like, an incestual worm infects Riker and causes him to make sexual advances on all of the female crew members of the Enterprise. Nobody notices. The worm eventually dies of old age. So I've been watching Star Trek Next Generation. It's still great.
Me personally, I have been watching The Little Drummer Girl. It's an AMC TV adaptation of the spy novel by John le Carré. He's also the guy who did like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
That sounds interesting.
He's he's a great author, definitely. And so far, I've watched the first 2 episodes, and it takes place in very attractive locales. I mean, it's like all across Europe. In the first 2 episodes, you get to visit these cities, and they clearly were actually there on location to shoot. And Michael Shannon is in it, and he's really spectacular in his role as a Mossad agent, definitely. And the female lead is very attractive, and I'm blanking on what her name is, but she is a smoke show.
She is hot.
She is a smoke show.
Hot.
Well, that wraps up our discussion of Spider-Man 3. Don't forget to check out our incredible website, coldnorthpro.com, where you can see everything we do in one place. Listen to us weekly on our other gaming podcast, Hard Reset. And next time, we'll be catching Kevin Connolly's 2018 trashterpiece, Gotti, starring John Travolta. If you want to subject yourself to this movie before you listen, it's available to stream for free with an Amazon Prime subscription. And until next time, don't forget, no refunds.